Welcome to the Capital News. I'm your host, Alex Karitis. Today is Monday, November 9th, 2020. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you all enjoyed your weekend. I know I wanted to do a podcast yesterday, but had some family time, so just did not get that out yesterday evening. Want to talk about the jobs report, and that is the title of today's podcast. The jobs report came out last Friday, so we're going to do our typical jobs report analysis, read through its entirety as opposed to just focusing on the headlines. We're going to talk about some market performance because we had one heck of an up day across the board, pretty much across the board on Wall Street, especially with the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the small caps with the Russell 2000. Just astronomical heights there off of the back of Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company, announcing that their vaccine is showing some effectiveness, perhaps some serious effectiveness. And isn't it interesting, the timing of all of this? Because you have to recall, before the election, you had a handful of these pharmaceutical companies get together and basically sign an agreement with one another that they are not going to come out and make any type of announcement because they didn't want to be seen as interfering with the election. Well, these idiots couldn't even wait a full week from Election Day, which of course is going to be tomorrow, to come out with another headline. And if this headline proves to be like all the other headlines that we have been witnessing over the past several months, this one's going to be a nothing burger as well. But boy, did it juice the markets. Unbelievable. You get market sell-off the past couple of weeks because of the tighter restrictions and the lockdowns pretty much across Europe. And then, whoop, you flip a switch. Oh, we got another BS vaccine headline coming across the wires. Let's just completely negate all of that almost in one day. Cannot make this stuff up. Central banks standing at the ready to do whatever it takes and currently doing whatever it takes. No semblance of any normal, well-functioning market whatsoever. This is just print more money, give us some BS headlines, and we're off to the races. This is extremely fragile, and in my opinion, it's extremely dangerous. But that's that. I'm sure within a day or two, we'll find out what's really in the fine print of this announcement from Pfizer. And in this audience, if you've been with me, you understand my take on this. I'm not taking the vaccine. I don't trust it. We have had diseases and viruses out there for a very long time. Some of the smartest minds in the scientific field working on them, and they don't have vaccines for them. Might not even have therapeutics for some things. And now we're supposed to believe this comes out of nowhere and we're going to get a vaccine that's going to work. I'm just not going to trust it. But, you make up your own decision and do what you want. A lot of people don't want to put on the mask. You think they're going to inject something from Operation Warp Speed? Maybe, but we shall see. All right, we have Defense Department, Secretary of Defense, I should say, Mark Esper, has been fired by the president. This was also discussed before the election, that in the event that Trump, well, either way, I guess, if he should win or lose, that he was going to fire Defense Secretary Mark Esper. Next on the chopping block, potentially, again, this was part of the rumor, because there was three of them. It was Esper, it was the CIA director, I believe Gina Haspel was her name, and then Director Wray within the FBI. So are those two up next on the chopping block? Time will tell. And, of course, over the weekend, as everybody knows, Joe Biden was declared the victor. President-elect Joe Biden. Some of you believe it, some of you don't. Some of you are waiting for recounts. Is that going to go anywhere? Probably not. There would have to be some massive voter fraud that has taken place to overturn these elections. That, of course, isn't going to stop Donald Trump from tweeting and making comments, nor is that going to stop his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, or others within the Trump campaign or administration from making those claims of massive voter fraud that could unwind the current call for a president-elect Joe Biden. And, of course, if that reverses that, then that would mean that President Trump would have won re-election. 99.999% of the time, there's simply not enough voting irregularities to overturn an election. And with these types of margins that we're seeing, it doesn't appear that this is going to be that 0.001 time. Okay? A lot of Republicans have been coming out and saying that this isn't going to go Trump's way. Secretaries of State, attorneys generals, you name it, coming out and saying there's no irregularities. Of course, they're defending their respective states and their people and their processes. Look, this wasn't our first election. I understand people aren't happy with the result. I mean, that was a given for me. No matter who won, I wasn't going to be happy. But that's just the way it goes. So the president is still the president for the rest of November, all of December, and most of January. So let's just call it 3 months. He can still do a lot within those 3 months. I mean, he can fire people. A lot of executive orders can be signed for God knows what. There can be a lot of drama between now and Inauguration Day. A lot of drama. And to me, this is far from over. The drama aspect of it. Rudy Giuliani claiming dead people voted. We have proof, we have proof, we have proof. Where have we heard this before? Are you going to find people, dead people that have voted? Probably, and you're probably going to find votes on both sides. You look, you're going to find some of this stuff. Human beings were counting these ballots. There were going to be mistakes, but again, is it enough to overturn those types of margins? A lot of Republicans and conservative commentators on Twitter. All the media doesn't call elections. You know, I never heard them say that before. I didn't hear them say that in 2016 when Donald Trump won by 77,000 votes across 3 states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. I didn't hear him saying that. I didn't hear Hillary Clinton, who thinks it was her destiny to be the president of the United States, saying we're going to do these recounts because I only lost by 77,000 votes across 3 states. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear the Republicans make that comment, that the media doesn't call elections when Barack Obama won his re-election in 2012 or won for the first time in 2008, etc., etc. But now you pick it. Now you have the president who was out weeks, months before saying the only way I can lose is if it's rigged. Of course, if he wins, perfectly legit. He loses, it's rigged. He said it was rigged in 2016, and he won. Put together his little commission to find out about voter fraud. Came back, oh no, there's not that much. Hits just keep on coming. This is just the same record being played over and over and over again. Yet people keep buying into it. You know, I would just hope that the president, at some point, when reality sinks in, that he's gracious. For the purpose of the country, even for the purpose of his own legacy, which you would think he would care about. But if nothing less, for the country. Make a phone call to Joe, have him in the White House, transition, peaceful transfer of power. To me, that's important. And I've been through why. And then, of course, you have the DOJ. Right now, overnight, we have the DOJ's top election crimes prosecutor quitting in protest after Barr, Attorney General Barr, tells federal attorneys to probe unsupported allegations of voter irregularities. Now, it's unclear at this time whether or not this top prosecutor is completely resigning from the Justice Department or just from his current office overlooking elections crimes. So that is something that is breaking news this evening. We'll keep you updated on that. So clearly, Attorney General Bill Barr at least wants to remain in Donald Trump's good graces and looking as some sort of loyal captain for him within the administration. We'll see what comes of this. Electoral College, of course, depending on what outlet you're looking at. This is from the Associated Press. 290 Electoral College votes to Joe Biden, 214 to Donald Trump, with it appearing that Donald Trump will win the states of North Carolina and Alaska. Joe Biden currently has a lead in the state of Georgia, but it was razor-thin margin, so an automatic recount is taking place there. And AP was one of the early outlets to call the state of Arizona. I believe Fox News was the first, and AP followed suit a few hours later on election night or in, November 3rd, November 4th, early morning. You still have CNN and some others that have not awarded the state of Arizona, so the Electoral College would be 279 to Joe Biden and still 214 to Donald Trump. Okay, so there you have it. It's just the personality, folks. Say it here all the time. You want a blue-faced clown behind the desk or a red-faced clown behind the desk. That's all it is. It's just personality. We went through this. We go through this, and we're going to continue to go through it because that's what this podcast is. They ram home all their talking points 24/7 on all these news outlets. I have to do it for my half hour here on a daily basis. Okay? It's just the checklist. None of this is going to be discussed to any great deal, if at all. Income tax, Federal Reserve, infrastructure, Patriot Act, Snowden files, FinCEN files, two-tier justice system, what these banks are getting away with. All the big stuff. But they want to keep you occupied and distracted to fight amongst each other while they run away with trillions of dollars, which is yours, by the way. And whatever they do with it, if they should lose, the Federal Reserve, some of these banks, guess who's on the hook for bailing them out again? That's right, you and me. But pay attention to the popularity contest because that's obviously what matters. Hopefully it's starting to sink in. I know with some of you it is, others it's not, but that's the battle I'm fighting. That's completely fine. So market performance, we have the dollar index trading down slightly overnight here at 92.64. So again with the 92 handle. Overnight futures trading all in the red for the U.S. exchanges. Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 0.8%. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 are both currently down about 0.6%. Cash trade in Japan is currently gaining about 0.4%. Huge rally across the pond in Europe. Staggering results here. FTSE 100 UK exchange up 4 2/3%. German markets up about 5 percentage points. French markets gaining 7.5%. The Italian exchange gaining 5.5%. And the Spanish markets gaining about 8.5% for the day. And just so you all know, they are nowhere near making all-time highs despite those types of gains. Quite astonishing. Australian cash rate is currently up about 0.6%. On the commodity front, both currently down. WTI at $39.66 a barrel. Brent is at $41.86. Natural gas still below a 3-handle now, trading at $2.88. Gold and silver got whacked today, but both are currently trading in the green. Gold at $1,884 an ounce. It was at $19.50 last week. Silver's at $24.25. It was getting close to $26. Even in overnight trading, it was looking good, and then that headline from Pfizer comes out that everything is honky-dory. They got a cure, basically, and that just broke it down, simply because when you have that type of news, the thinking now, of course, is, well, there's not going to be as much need for perhaps fiscal stimulus or monetary stimulus, so that's not going to be the best of news for gold and silver. I don't think that's, of course, the true narrative that's going to be played out. That's just some of the noise in the markets that we have to contend with that creates some of this volatility. Buy low, sell high. You know my belief when it comes to the precious metal space. Uncle Sam's 10-year junk note is yielding spot 9.2%. So, again, with the 9 handle. Now, is the market paying attention to this? Is it? Can the market tolerate higher yields here, which will end up translating into higher interest rates across the board? This is the 10-year. A lot of very important financial loans and everything else are tied to the 10-year. We couldn't tolerate 2.25% in 2018. I don't think we're going to be able to tolerate 1.5% in 2020 or in 2021 or in 2022. Just keep going down the line. Not going to be able to tolerate it. That's how fragile this system is. So what's being priced in here? Is it really growth? Do they really think that this vaccine is just going to do it? that we're going to be able to overcome all of the logistics and all the supply chain issues. And I still believe this is one of those vaccines that people need to get it twice. They need a booster shot like after 4 weeks. Is it going to prove effective across the board? Who's going to get it? A lot of unknowns. But the markets, again, they don't care. They just want the headlines. And they got them. So that's some of the market performance. Now we have the jobs report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Total non-farm payroll employment rose by 638,000 in October, and the unemployment rate declined to 6.9%. These improvements in the labor market reflect the continued resumption of economic activity that had been curtailed due to the coronavirus pandemic and efforts to contain it. In October, notable gains occurred in leisure and hospitality, professional and business services, retail, trade, and construction. Employment in government declined. Household survey data. In October, the unemployment rate declined by 1 percentage point to 6.9%, and the number of unemployed persons fell by 1.5 million to 11.1 million. Both measures have declined for 6 consecutive months, but are nearly twice their February levels, 3.5% and 5.8 million, respectively. Unemployment rates declined among all major worker groups in October. The rate was 6.7% for adult men, 6.5% for adult women, 13.9% for teenagers, 6% for whites, 10.8% for blacks, 7.6% for Asians, and 8.8% for Hispanics. Among the unemployed, the number of persons on temporary layoff fell by 1.4 million to 3.2 million. This measure is down considerably from the high of 18.1 million in April, but is 2.4 million higher than in February. The number of permanent job losers at 3.7 million in October changed little over the month, but is 2.4 million higher than in February. Again, that is one of the numbers we like to watch here closely. Little changed over the previous month. Again, 3.7 million permanent job losers for the month of October. In October, the number of long-term unemployed, those jobless for 27 weeks or more, increased by 1.2 million to 3.6 million, so that's not good, accounting for 32.5% of the total unemployed. By contrast, the number of unemployed persons jobless 15 to 26 weeks decreased by 2.3 million to 2.6 million, better direction, and the number of persons jobless 5 to 14 weeks decreased by 457,000 to 2.3 million. The number of persons who were jobless less than 5 weeks was about unchanged at 2.5 million. The labor force participation rate increased by 0.3 percentage points to 61.7 in October. This is 1.7 percentage points below the February level, so still a ways to go. The employment population ratio increased by 0.8 percentage points to 57.4 in October, but is 3.7 percentage points lower than in February. In October, the number of persons who usually work full-time rose by 1.2 million to 123.6 million, and the number who usually work part-time increased by 1 million to 26.2 million. The number of persons employed part-time for economic reasons increased by 383,000 to 6.7 million in October, after declines totaling 4.6 million over the prior 5 months. These individuals who would have preferred full-time employment were working part-time because their hours had been reduced or they were unable to find full-time jobs. This group includes persons who usually work full-time and persons who usually work part-time. The number of persons not in the labor force who currently want a job decreased by 539,000 to 6.7 million in October. This measure is 1.7 million higher than in February. These individuals were not counted as unemployed because they were not actively looking for work during the last 4 weeks or were unavailable to take a job. Among those not in the labor force who currently want a job, the number of persons marginally attached to the labor force at 2 million was about unchanged in the month of October. These individuals were not in the labor force and wanted and were available for work and had looked for a job sometime in the prior 12 months but had not looked for work in the 4 weeks preceding the survey. The number of discouraged workers, a subset of the marginally attached, who believed that no jobs were available for them, was 588,000 in October, essentially unchanged from the previous month. So there you have it, a little bit of mix there. That was the household survey. Now we have the establishment survey that breaks down a little bit more per sector. So total non-farm payroll employment rose by 638,000 in October and has increased for 6 consecutive months. In October, non-farm employment was below its February level by 10.1 million, or 6.6%. Notable job gains occurred over the month in leisure and hospitality, professional and business services, retail, trade, and construction. Employment in government declined. Employment in leisure and hospitality increased by 271,000 in October, with gains in food services and drinking places gaining 192,000. Arts, entertainment, and recreation up 44,000, and accommodation up 34,000. Leisure and hospitality has added 4.8 million jobs since the month of April, but employment in the industry is still down by 3.5 million since February. Professional and business services added 208,000 jobs in the month of October, with temporary help services adding 109,000, accounting for about half of the gain. Again, that's temporary help. Employment also increased in services to buildings and dwellings, up 19%. Computer system design and related services up 16,000. And management and technical consulting services up 15,000. Employment in professional and business services is 1.1 million below its February level. In October, retail trade added 104,000 jobs, with almost one-third of the gain in electronics and appliance stores, up 31,000. Employment also rose in motor vehicle and parts dealers, up 23,000. Furniture and home furnishing stores, up 14,000. Clothing and clothing accessory stores gaining 13,000. General merchandise stores gaining 10,000, and non-store retailers up 9,000. Employment in retail trade has risen by 1.9 million since April, but is still 499,000 below its February level. Construction added 84,000 jobs in the month of October. Specialty trade contractors added jobs both in the non-residential, up 28,000, and residential, up 18,000. Employment also rose in heavy and civil engineering construction and in construction of buildings, respectively, both gaining 19,000. Construction has added 789,000 jobs in the last 6 months, but employment is still down by 294,000 since February. Employment in healthcare and social assistance rose by 79,000 in October, but is down by 950,000 since February. In October, healthcare employment increased by 58,000, with the largest gains occurring in hospitals, up 16,000, offices of physicians up 14,000, offices of dentists up 11,000, and outpatient care centers up 10,000. These increases were partially offset by a decline of 9,000 in nursing and residential care facilities. Social assistance added 21,000 over the month of October. Employment in transportation and warehousing increased by 63,000 in October, with gains occurring in warehousing and storage up 28,000, transit and ground passenger transportation up 25,000, and truck transportation gaining 10,000. By contrast, air transportation shed 18,000 jobs. Employment in transportation and warehousing is 271,000 below its February level. The other services industry added 47,000 jobs in October, with gains occurring in personal and laundry services up 27,000 and in repair maintenance up 18,000. Employment in other services is 436,000 below its February level. Manufacturing employment also rose by 38,000 in October, but is 621,000 lower than in February. Gains occurred in fabricated metal products up 7,000, primary metals up 6,000, and wood products up 4,000. Employment continued to trend up in food manufacturing up 6,000, and in plastics and rubber products up 4,000. Employment in financial activities rose by 31,000 in October, but is 129,000 lower than in the month of February. Over the month, job gains occurred in finance and insurance up 17,000, and real estate gaining 10,000. In October, government employment fell by 268,000. A decrease of 138,000 in federal government was driven by a loss of 147,000 temporary 2020 census workers. Job losses also occurred in local government education and state government education, down 98,000 and 61,000 respectively. Employment in other major industries, including mining, wholesale trade, and information, changed little in the month of October. They also note some current revisions over the prior 2 months, which were 15,000 higher than previously reported. And then at the end of the report, they continue with their fine print. Had they calculated more accurately, the unemployment rate would have been 0.3 percentage points higher than what they noted. So it's currently at 6.9%. Taking that into consideration, it would be at 7.2%. And then, of course, looking across the board with our initial jobless claims discussions that we have here every Thursday or at least once a week, we're still at about 750, 800,000 jobs per week. So even if you just added that up, it's 750,000 times 4 weeks. That's 3 million jobs. That's 3 million people who filed an initial claim for unemployment. And yet, here with the jobs report, they're telling us that 600 and some thousand jobs, 638,000 jobs were created in the month of October. And of course, it would be actually even more than that, in the private sector, because the government was a subtraction of over 200,000 jobs. So that really tells us that the private sector was creating some 900,000 jobs. So how does that fix with the initial claims? And then if you look at initial claims and you still have about 21.5 million Americans still claiming some form of unemployment insurance, and you take that tally against the working population, you're still at 13%. Almost double the 6.9% headline that they continue to give us. Now, there's things that are going in the right direction. People are getting their jobs back, et cetera, et cetera. That's good. But then again, we also have a lot of people working part-time who would be rather working full-time. So there's still a lot of stress. And you still have a lot of people who are on furloughs. So the question becomes, what happens to those individuals? We already know, unfortunately, with respect to a lot of them, they're not going to get called back. Survey after survey. Small business, large companies large corporations such as the airlines, if we don't get more fiscal stimulus here, fiscal support from the government, we're closing up shop, or we're going to have to cut hours, or we're going to have to cut employees, some combination thereof. And some of them are going to shut their doors. For good, that's going to be it. So we're far from out of the woods. I hope things trend in the right direction. But I just don't see how this is going to maintain itself. You throw an additional several $1 trillion into the economy out of nowhere. And to say that that is some sort of foundation, that's a solid foundation, I just can't buy into it. To me, it's a foundation built on sand, and it's going to crumble. Which is why you continue to see the World Bank, the IMF, the ECB, Bank of Japan, Federal Reserve, all of them coming out and saying that they have to do more. They're going to stand at the ready to do more, but they really want more fiscal measures from their respective governments. Because they know that this is a foundation built on sand. They're just never going to come out and admit it. You throw several $1 trillion into the economy, you're going to get something out of it, at least temporarily. And I think that's all we've been witnessing here for the past several months. The question is what happens over the coming several months, and I don't think it's going to be pretty. But as I say, nobody wants to be proven wrong more than me, and I'll stick with that one on this as well. But time will tell. Stay diversified, stay vigilant, and stay with the Capital News. I am Alex Corritis. Godspeed.